BICEPS project aims at demonstrating and further understanding the effects of biochar amendment on crop yields. We will compare effects of biochar on different types of soils and under different climatic conditions in coastal and central regions of Kenya and in South Africa.
What effects does biochar have on fertility?
It helps to retain the water. It helps to retain the nutrients. It can also help release the phosphorus, which we think can be very important here. These soils are slightly acidic and have a lot of iron oxides, so they bind the phosphorus very tightly. So even if you add phosphorus, there's not so much available for the plants to take up. And if then biochar increases the pH in these slightly acidic soils, then the phosphorus gets released better and taken up better by the plants.
The soils here are normal tropical soils. We can see the red color, which is typical of tropical soils, but there are many different varieties of these red soil. We will describe the soil profile and make a proper soil classification for the project.
Do you expect different effects for different soils?
Absolutely. If you have a very fertile soil, you won't achieve much effect by just adding the biochar. If you have a problematic soil where the water is not retained, or in a dry climate, or if you have a very acidic soil, or if you have a soil that doesn't retain nutrients well enough, then the biochar helps a lot and can even double or triple your harvest yield.
Why is biochar good for water retention?
So one, due to its porosity, and then two, due to its effect on soil aggregation.
Will biochar have the same effect in different climates?
Yes, biochar most likely tend to increase water retention irrespective of the climate. But of course here the rainfall is quite high, over 1,600 millimeter. So the effect may not matter for crop growth, but still, if you measure in the soil, you may still find an increase in water content in soils amended with biochar.
So in Kwale we used coconut shells for making biochar, and here we have maize cobs. Why is it we have a different feedstock, and will it affect the biochar quality?
We have another biochar feedstock because it's more compatible with the farming systems here. So they grow more maize, so there's more cobs available to make the biochar off. And it will absolutely influence the biochar quality. Not so much with regard to water retention, but quite a lot with regard to the pH effect and the nutrient retention capacity.
So in principle you can make biochar of any feedstock?
Yes, you can make it of any feedstock as long as it's dry enough, and the exception is maybe very leathery leaves. They give very smoky fire, and smoke is not healthy, and also methane will escape, which is a greenhouse gas. So we have to have dry and not so oily feedstock.
Which feedstock would you prefer for which type of soil? Is it a recipe?
Yes, I think if you have aluminium toxicity because of very low pH and release of plant toxic aluminium, then use, for example, coconut shell or cacao shell biochar because it has very high alkalinity and high cation exchange capacity. But if water retention is the main limitation to crop growth, then you can go for any biochar that's available.
How is the biochar affecting the bacteria in rhizosphere and the nitrogen?
So we have the shift in the nitrifiers.
Nitrifiers and denitrifiers are bacteria in the soil that transform nitrogen species. Some of them produce nitrate, which is easily available for plants, but some of them produce nitrous oxide, N2O, which is a greenhouse gas. Biochar changes the soil pH, soil moisture, and oxygen concentrations. The resulting conditions can favor denitrifiers transforming N2O into N2 and therefore indirectly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Also, biochar may increase nitrogen use efficiency by reducing its leaching.
What is the effect of biochar on the root systems?
Basically, we look at the apsicular mycorrhiza fungi, shortly called AMF. I want to see the effects of this biochar on the microorganisms and specifically the AMF.
Arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, or AMF, are fungi developing on plant roots. AMF and other types of microorganisms can help plants to uptake nutrients. Biochar stimulates microorganisms in the rhizosphere and thus stimulates nutrient uptake and nutrient use efficiency.
Mostly it has effects on phosphorus.
Okay.
Yeah, so it makes phosphorus more available to the crop.
So how will biochar change the fauna in the soil?
It can affect the nutrients, or rather the carbon in the soil itself. So that could impact on the types of organisms responding to the application of the biochar, as well as the numbers. There are some suggestions that it could be the carbon is not so palatable to the organisms to feed on, especially earthworms which do feed on the soils, so that will negatively affect them. But still, there was some positive impacts, when there is less amount of that charcoal, but when you increase the amounts, then they start escaping. So it's still a continuing experiment, and it will be important to see what will happen after addition of other feedstocks.